Okay, Alistair,
Yeah,
you've been talking about a black goo in London sewers,
yeah, yeah.
which modifies human
People's
DNA.
DNA. Yeah.
Now, a skeptic would say, you're off your fucking rockers. You're talking a load of crap.
Okay.
You're delusional. You got no evidence. And basically, you're just having a laugh.
Yeah, but the thing is, I've got this skin. I look like a snowman in sunlight, and people comment on it. And I can speak another language, and that hasn't left me. I can still speak that language. And what about all the cases of?
In other words, what I'm saying is, how would you answer a skeptic like that?
Well, I'd say I've had
Which is a natural response.
I've had long-lasting effects from my personal exposure to sewage containing sentient fluid.
Now, the point is, how do you know it contains sentient fluid? And
Because I've been informed by someone who
in the military.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I'm just cautious because, for instance, somebody could just send anybody down here to come up with a fancy story and
Sure.
then make the Amash project or my basis work look like a pile of delusional hooey. That's the basic point.
I need to be careful because I do know the names of all these people, but I wouldn't want to say their names because that would be
No names, no pactoral.
exactly. I mean, they don't go around talking about me, so
I mean,
especially
are you able to use a pseudonym for anybody, or is that just too complicated?
I could give you a surname of the military engineer who.
I mean, as soon as you mention a surname of anybody, nobody who doesn't know him anyway. But the people who do know him will know that he's. I mean, are these guys talking tales out of school, or are you being used as a mechanism to convey this information to a wider public?
I'm not supposed to disclose some of this information. However, I'm definitely not supposed to disclose their personal names.
Yeah, well, we'll keep, as I say, no names, no pactoral. That's fine. I think that's
well,
fair.
I'm of the opinion that the mainstream media needs to be more well informed. So I'm happy to disclose a lot of this information without naming names. But I have had contact with people very high up in the military in the US, and a UK.
Are you saying
based
NSA, or I mean, can you mention like NSA or CIA or
CIA?
Can you
CIA. Yeah.
So the CIA have been talking to you.
Yeah.
What about MI5? Are they sort of sitting out having a cigarette out the door, or what?
I did have some contact with them.
And why are they contacting you? Okay, you've got ill in a dodgy cellar in Earl's Court.
That was in Gloucester Road,
So
which is in South Kensington.
South Kensington.
The thing is, I have a family member who was MI6.
Right. Okay, so you have an MI6 military family connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And okay, what sort of connection was that?
He was intelligence. He died recently, and he used to walk me around on the riverbank, and he used to introduce me to a couple of them walking up and down. Sometimes he took me to some residential areas where people lived who worked for the government.
And what were you exposed to? What were you told? What was happening there?
I was just told sort of political things, so things about the royal family.
Well, there's a lot of stuff about the royal family.
Yeah.
I mean, some people think they're actually reptilian aliens.
I know David Icke says that they are.
Well, what about their blood group? I mean, how strange are they on that?
Yeah, the thing is, they have like a system where it's like a system of breeding, So
what do you mean by a system of breeding?
Well, they make sure that they have a specific. I mean, you might notice that they live into quite old age.
Yeah, that's life extension technology, as James Casbolt would say.
Possibly. I wouldn't want to say that they have life extension technology. I would say that their genetics is enough to help them to have that extended lifespan.
I mean, are you saying they're basically not human?
I don't know if they're not human. I'm not familiar
and
with.
And then again, what is human? Human may be a variety of non-terrestrials. We're all alien, apparently.
I've got an opinion that we all come from different genetic lines of bacteria which landed on the planet from meteorites and asteroids. It's a theory called panspermia, and so by that logic, the royal family could be a specific line of that goes back to a specific race. Seedings, yeah. So, but I don't consider them to be aliens because they live here, they're born here.
Yeah. I mean, we're all different in some way or other. Okay, what I want to get is your actual connections in your past while you were young with MI6 and those sort of things.
Sure.
And what sort of things were you told? Because you weren't. Did you sign the Official Secrets Act?
No.
So, in essence, you're not violating any oath.
No.
So tell us what they told you.
Well, I was told that I was taken to residential areas, and I was told this is where they retire to, and it was a gated.
Who is they?
Ex agents of the government, especially at a higher level, and it was basically a gated community.
Yeah.
So
there was a safe place for old guys to grow their roses.
Well, it's not like a home. It's like a gated community, like a closed off place. But I don't know what goes on in those places. But the thing is, they're people with secrets, so they're not really they're kept separate from society so that they don't disclose secrets.
Yeah, in other words, too many cocktails.
Yeah. So I wasn't told a lot because he did his job. So he didn't tell me high level secrets. It was all inferred.
Now I mentioned James Casbolt there earlier. I think on the telephone call he had some kind of influence somehow, or what?
I found a James Casbolt video just by coincidence. I was searching on YouTube. I was looking a little bit at UFO videos, and there was an interview with James Casbolt just in the bottom right column of videos, and I clicked on it, and I watched a couple of his videos, and I found a lot of the things that he was saying is new to me. It's not something that I'm aware of in my own personal experience of all of these things. However, there was one specific thing which stood out, and it was the recording of brainwave patterns. That does ring true to me because I've been the victim of these patterns being run on me. So someone has, recorded the suffering of someone else in pattern form, and then I've had it run on me. So he was talking about the recording process, but I'm talking about the situation where you actually have that used on you.
In other words, the playback process.
The playback process, yeah. So as soon as I heard him talk about recording of the brainwave patterns of suffering specifically, I knew straight away that there was a connection between his understanding and my experience, and it enlightened me and gave me a new name for what I'd experienced.
But there was no other actual connection other than, I mean, you weren't at a base with him or anything like that.
No.
Okay, so let's get back to the secret, the secret, not the secrets, but the sort of non-secret stuff that you were explained by your friends.
Yeah, it was just non-secret stuff, like where they go and live.
Yeah, okay. So where does this lead you to being involved with military and going down holes and being exposed to black goo?
it was a kind of a series of coincidences, but you never know with
Yeah.
these things. Some of these
Well,
things.
could you explain that? Let's get you to the black goo, and then
Sure. Well, I was living in this flat in South Kensington, nearer to Gloucester Road. I was staying with a family member. It was very large. It had 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and I had my own door, which led to 2 rooms, which belonged to me. And one of the rooms, they were both rooms were connected to the well, but one of them was built into it.
you mean the room was actually part of the well?
Yeah, there was a door in one room, which goes into the well, and then in the other room there's 2 windows. So when you open the windows and look through them, you're looking at the well. So it's like on top of the ground of the well. The room.
But it seems this isn't a well. A well is something you get fresh water from. This is access to the underground sewage system in London.
Yeah, but it's called a well for some reason. It's always. I mean,
A well is a source of fresh water. This is not a well. This is access.
It's a disused one. So it used to be a well. It's on a ley line, like a.
So there's a particular energy line going through there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Were there any rituals performed in this room?
Yes. Yeah. There was some witches or people that practiced witchcraft that lived in the flat before we did. So there were things.
So essentially, you were in a. Does that mean your relatives are witches, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you go up in my family, up to the my great grandmother and stuff. Yeah, there are witches.
And have they been burned at stakes and persecuted, all that kind of stuff?
No, because it's not from that era. It's the more.
But that would imply that you've got a genetics or a blood. What's your blood group?
I don't know. I've tried to ask my mum, but she won't tell me.
She won't tell you.
Yeah.
What else will she not tell you?
She won't. She will tell me if I persist. But when I was a child, things used to fly about. Things used to.
So you're psychically aware and telepathic. Is that right?
At the moment, yeah. But when I was a child, apparently it was much more pronounced.
And what sort of experiences?
Well, things used to move, like objects used to move in the house. I have a memory of being with my being with my mum in her bedroom, and a lamp just flew up off the ground and then back on the ground, and then flew up off the ground and back on the ground. And also, when I was a child, when I would lie in bed, I would look up at the ceiling and I would see beings, coming towards my face and then going back up at.
What sort of beings?
They were just mostly faces that would smile at me and then lunge down in my face and smile at me. I was very young though. I was about 2 years old.
Were they ghosts or were they friends that you met before?
I think they were from a previous life. If I think it was some sort of remnant effect from a previous life. So I'd just come into this one. So I was 2 years old, and I think that they were tailing me. My spirit. This is the intuition that I have on who they were, but they left around when I was around 3.
So basically speaking, you've got a family which has got witches
in it. Yeah.
Witches, in other words, they have a enhanced ability in certain areas.
Well, one of them was reading psychically reading movie stars, and I'll name a name. Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Sinead O'Connor, who sang "Nothing Compares to You," and others as well. It's quite. It makes sense because.
Well, those 2 guys have been pretty hacked up.
Yeah.
I mean, Sinead O'Connor was a victim of an alleged victim of abuse. I mean, she's proclaimed that. I believe she's proclaimed that. She's tore the picture of the Pope up on US primetime TV.
Well, she used to come and see my grandmother for help, but
in that regard,
on all of her problems she used to share with my grandmother.
Right. Well, that's a sort of a private thing, but it's a public thing now. But
and Timothy Dalton, who played James Bond, was another client.
So would you mix with those sort of
I
showbiz?
used to come out of my bedroom and walk into the kitchen, and sometimes I'd be called in and I'd be introduced to some sort of movie star or pop star.
Did this? Did they have any other things involved with them?
What these people?
Yeah.
Well, no, they were involved in the occult and rituals and things like that. You know.
And what do you mean by rituals?
You know, like magic. You know, witchcraft and.
I mean, were you boiling babies and stuff like that?
Nothing like that. No
Really horrendous dark stuff.
No dark stuff that I'm aware, anyway.
Yeah. So essentially, you've got a background of psychic connections with witchcraft. You then shoved down miraculously you're in the military. You've got military connections. They're putting you in an apartment which has got a connection with the underground system, which has got a strange biotic oil.
Yeah.
And strange creatures.
Yeah.
Now, I have encountered, or we have reports of encounters with some kind of spider creatures. And also there are some people who are abductees have a sort of a centipedal type implant placed into them. Any connections with anything like that?
A centipedal type insect grabbed my face, but it was black and shiny. And I grabbed it with my 2 fingers and I pulled it off and looked at it, and it was doing that. And then I threw it on the floor and I ran out of the room because it was, you know, it was unlike any other insect I've ever seen on television or in, you know, in books or in life.
How big was it?
This long and about that thick. Was a bit thinner than my finger. And
how many legs on each side? Was it symmetrical?
It was symmetrical. It had a lot of legs. You know, not thousands, but you know, it was like a lot of legs. You know, it was very unusual. I mean, it was centipedal. It was long. It was narrow. It had lots of legs.
And this was in this room.
This was in one of the rooms connected to the sewage well. I peeled it off my face and threw it on the floor. You know, I looked at it. I held it between my fingers and looked.
What color was it?
Black, shiny, jet black, shiny.
That's not entirely strange. Maybe there are big things like that in the Brazilian jungle. I mean, maybe stuff like that's got out.
Possibly.
Why do you attribute that to something different?
Because the color of it. It was shiny, jet black, and it had grooves on its back. You know, you can tell when something's. It was so strange that I didn't go in that room again for about a month.
Well, I can't possibly see why. I mean, perfectly harmless, multi-legged thing crawls up on you.
No, it freaked me out.
It did?
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Anybody else would just go in there immediately afterwards and probably make friends with it.
The thing is, I was quite young when that happened. I was about 14. You know, I was still living in that place when I was 14. But no, that thing was creepy.
No, but are you saying that you had the black oil thing when you were 14?
No. I was still living in that place when I was 14. But later on is when it happened when I was 19.
Well, you moved to a different room. Was this the same apartment where you get access to the tunnel?
Yeah.
So how? Okay, I just want to get any detail in any of strange creatures of a particular type, or what that were in those tunnels.
I didn't like to go in them and explore in that way, but yeah, I saw huge spiders and. You know,
when you're talking about huge spiders, what size?
Like this.
And how did they move?
Very quickly. And there was a massive spider web, you know, like really, you know, it was...
I mean, you're talking tarantulas and things like that.
Things like tarantulas, but not tarantulas, like same size, you know, but because, you know, they were just not the same colouring and everything. You know, yeah, I saw some pretty disgusting insects in those places. You know, but you know, it's underground, and you know, it's got stuff down there. You know,
I mean, the what I'm thinking of is I mean, how did you see them? Was it lit? How is it electric light down
You have
there?
to take a torch with you.
Right. Take more than one torch.
Yeah.
And have you gone there with other people? Or
Yeah,
just
sometimes I took friends just to show them it.
the creepy crawlies. And
It was, the big spiders and stuff like that.
Are you familiar with the term scuttler?
I've heard it before, yeah. I've heard it before.
I mean, have you heard it from me or from other people? Or
I've just from watching videos.
okay, right. So you have no direct experience of that.
What would you say a scuttler is? How do you describe
Well, a scuttler is a hyperdimensional device which isn't visible for very long, and you only see out of the corner of your eye. At least I would only see the corner of your eye.
Right.
Peripheral vision.
Yeah.
It's a black fuzzy thing with many legs, which looks like a spider but moves like a crab. It scuttles out of the way. Doesn't like being perceived.
I wouldn't.
And it's on information-based systems like transmitters, electrical power supply systems, computers, all sorts of stuff like that.
With that exact description, I don't have personal experience of
okay, well let's get past it.
Sure.
Let's concentrate on your actual experience.
Sure.
Okay, we've really. Is there anything more you want to say about the black goo?
I would say if you think about what we know with medical science, viruses that modify your DNA. They've been investigating viruses for so many years, and I don't know if you've ever heard of phage medicine.
This phage? No, well, I might not have, but others could have.
Okay.
But could you explain what that is?
Phage medicine.
How do you spell that?
PHAGE.
Yeah. Okay.
In phage medicine, what they do is they go to a sewage and they obtain a sample of sewage, and then they take viruses out of it and apply them to wounds of people in hospital who've been infected with things like MRSA. And then the viruses attack the MRSA and kill it, rather than using disinfectant, which is what some hospitals have resorted to doing. There's this thing called a macrophage.
Right.
And a macrophage has to be obtained from sewage. And macrophages can kill things like MRSA. And there's this thing called phage medicine. And
in other words, it's getting away from antibiotics, which is possibly one portion of what phage medicine is.
Well, phage medicine is basically using a virus.
Or a bacteria.
No, viruses. It's always a virus. They obtain viruses which attack bacteria. So what they do is they go to a sewage where there's viruses which survive in sewage with bacteria, and then they find the viruses which are able to fight the bacteria in the sewage, because the sewage has bacteria and viruses, and then they apply the viruses to a wound of a patient in a hospital, and the virus kills the infection because it's been living in a sewage, so it's able to...
In other words, it basically takes an organism where the food is, and that helps. Therefore, so what happens to the virus when it's...
Well, they're very, they don't last very long. They die, so...
Food supply runs out.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have to keep them in special fridges and with special temperatures and stuff like that. And, it's all organized it's very systematized, the whole process. But what this introduces us to is the whole world of sewage being something which contains, life forms, which, we do, they do understand sewage, because they have a medical process that uses things obtained from sewage, and they investigate. Sewage gets investigated because of that, because of all these medical applications. But it's a very, very expensive, very complicated medical science, and I believe, when I was informed of this, I was told there's only one hospital in the world that actually applies it.
And that's in London?
No, it's like somewhere in Europe,
So ultimately, how were you informed about the black goo?
I was just talking to my friend who goes away to these facilities, and we had a lot of discussions, and it came up in one discussion that I was living in an address where I was exposed to sewage, and as soon as I said sewage, he said sewage, and he asked me to explain it in detail, every single thing. And then he told me that there's a sentient fluid which can modify your DNA that's under the ground, and it's been flushed down the toilets of science labs, and it's like experimental science. It's not been released to the public, and it's under the ground.
In other words, it hasn't gone away, and is it multiplying or getting?
We don't know. We just know it's down there. You know.
So that's in England.
Yeah.
When did this happen first? When did it first happen? When was it first released?
30 years ago.
We've done a research tape on this called the ET Elements of the Falklands War.
Okay.
And there some researchers are suggesting that there was a black goo taken from an island south of the Falklands and brought to England, which resulted in a lot of deaths at Marconi.
Okay.
Are you aware of any of that?
I've heard these things, but you know, I it's just, for me, it's just conjecture what I've heard. I haven't seen any, you know, evidence of that particular insight. However, you know, I've been informed that the government does experiments that we don't hear about.
Obviously, yes.
And one of them involved something which is conscious. It's like a fluid which is conscious, and it's very dark.
How do you know it's conscious? I mean, do you think with it, or what does
well,
it
apparently it does things under a microscope, which only something which is conscious can actually do. You know, so it has specific properties and, you know, reactions to stimuli. You know, and it, you know, it has some sort of consistency which indicates that it's conscious, especially when exposed to people. You know, apparently it's modified the way people think and the way they behave. You know, it's kind of, I mean, it's a bit bit parasitic. It latches on to some part of their brain, and it integrates with their consciousness. So you know, people's behavior have been radically modified. You know, the way they speak, the speech pattern, the way they think. You know, so you know, it's kind of like conscious and piggybacks off the back of things like people and things like sewage. You know.
Now the thing about this is you've been exposed to this.
Yeah.
As you claim.
The thing is, I've been exposed to it, so I've kind of got this innate feeling about it. You know, like I really know it deep down that it.
So what can you say about it?
Well, it modifies you. It changes the way you think. I don't think the same way that I used to think.
What is it? What's the? In what way does it change your thinking and your speech and things like that?
Well, you start giving names to things which don't have names. You know, so like little small details, like you'll give a name to it. You know, so like a specific thing that you've noticed that someone does, like a specific behavior. You give like a succinct name to it in your mind. And
can you give an example?
Yeah, it's like, for instance, questions. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I compartmentalized in my mind, which is one of the symptoms. Questions, the amount of energy it takes to ask a question and the amount of energy it takes to hear the question and answer it isn't exactly the same. So, for instance, there's like what I call vampire questions or vampire statements. So they're questions or statements which are they don't take much energy for the person to say them, but the amount of energy it takes for the person to hear and answer them is much more. So the person is able to drain someone with these kinds of questions.
Well, I think it's called a psychic vampire.
Yeah, exactly. A psychic
there are
vampire.
certain people who will drain others by simply, you know, on a telephone conversation. At the end of it, you sort of feel, oh God, really drained.
Yeah, because there's a ratio. So there's an amount of energy it takes them to ask you the questions and make the statements that they're making, and then there's an amount of energy it takes you to hear and respond. And if they're out of whack, then the vampire, the energy vampire, is able to drain you just verbally. You know, but there's
So are you suggesting that that's what that's what the black oil does? The black goo does?
it does drain you. It drains your energy, but I don't think it drains your energy like a psychic vampire. It just drains you because it's modifying you, and it's doing things to your body which make your body tired. You know, because it's basically doing surgery at a very nanoscopic level. You know, so but what as an example, you know, I just named the vampire questions and statements things. That's like compartmentalizing a type of question or a type of statement. It's a way of thinking where you're naming things and you're becoming conscious of things which aren't necessarily always conscious. Another, you know, as an example, if someone is you know, if we're talking energy vampires, if someone's pointed towards you, they're sort of focusing on you and giving you energy. You can kind of feel energy. But if they're pointed away from you, the energy kind of goes away from you, and it can actually slightly drain you. So like pointing towards someone is putting a focus on them or an energy. And if you point towards someone like this, you know, for a few seconds and then point away from them, there's a change in the way they feel, because it's like a non-verbal energy tron.
Well, you sort of feel you feel a disconnect.
Yeah, there's a disconnect. There's a connect. There's a disconnect. But these are all things that I'm quite conscious of and have names for, because I naturally now notice things and give a name to them and compartmentalize them in my mind. So my mind has all different
And the black
compartments.
goo has given you that knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, it's very complicated. My what goes on in my head. You know, there's all
Can
different.
you explain that?
There's all different compartments for things. So there's a compartment for, you know, body language and non-verbal interactions between people. There's another compartment for personality. So there's all different types of personality compartments. So if I see someone do a specific thing, it goes in a compartment. Oh, that's the type of person that thinks like this and does this. And there's all these different compartments in my mind, but they weren't there before. They grew.
Are you accessing, or is the black goo accessing another consciousness? Is it essentially using you as a window?
What I intuit is that it's modified my thinking via you know, genetic modification, and my brain thinks in much more in patterns now. So things get compartmentalized. It might, you know, it could be that there's additional levels of consciousness that are present from the sentient organism, which is like sort of plugged into my body. So there's my consciousness, and there might be like an additional consciousness which is connected to my one, which gives it a boost.
Now, what evidence do you have it's done anything with your DNA?
Well, I don't have.
How can you say that, in other words?
Because first of all, viruses modify DNA. So if I've breathed in all these different airborne viruses from the sewage, that could have modified my DNA.
So this is a could have, it's not an actual.
Well, I've been told by a friend of mine that it definitely has, but you know, that's
Who's the friend?
the one that stays in the facility with the white walls and everything. But he, you know, he's told me
that's NSA or CIA.
This is UK, so it's like an underground military operation. So it isn't any of the main.
See, you said it was in Switzerland. I thought the White Room was in Switzerland.
Yes, but he's based in the UK. So, and he flies out, and there's all groups in the UK that he.
Are they all
communicates
human?
with. I hope so.
Is he dealing with any non-humans? In other words, at this base.
He says that he's had contact with extra-dimensional beings. I've been with him in the street, and we've had people surround us with cameras, with mobile phone cameras, and filming us. And then we've had to do this weird chant thing that he told me how to do. So I had to sing this this sound with him, and I had to try and match his tone as much as possible. So, because when two people do this specific tone with the voice, it makes like a calling sound, which calls these extra-dimensional beings to get rid of whoever's bothering you, and they all did just go away when we did it.
So why are you surrounded? What's the big deal?
Well, we were at his workplace, and we left there, and we were walking up.
Is in Peasmore or Berkshire?
This was in St. Paul's near Liverpool Street. So we were walking up the road, and people started surrounding us, like men with like suits on and stuff, and like brushing past us. And then people started filming us. And there was a woman sitting down filming us, and there were like a group of people around us filming us with their mobile phones. And we just stood there, and we were just, not knowing what was going on. And then he told me to sing this chant. So he told me to match his voice tone as much as possible, otherwise it doesn't work. So he started making the sound, and then I started making the sound and matching his voice tone, and then everyone started going away, and then it was like empty. And the weather sort of changed as well.
Now, what exactly attracted these people from the City of London to start taking pictures of?
We weren't doing anything strange. We were just walking.
There must be something remarkable that all those people should react in unison like that.
Yeah, we still don't know.
Yeah, but he must know.
He says we were being monitored. I've asked him. He says that we were being monitored, and he hasn't given me any more information other than that.
What were the facial expressions on the people doing all this?
Just normal, just stoic.
Why, is it just if you're walking down the street naked or something?
We were just walking, dressed normally. We weren't shouting.
Yeah, but what I've since
we were talking about things. We were talking about extraterrestrials and
yeah, but why should everybody talks about lots of things, but why should suddenly a lot of people, City of London folk, were they City of London pinstripe people?
No, they're just a mixture of different people. People with suits on, women. Most of them had suits on. They were men with suits, middle-aged.
Why should they respond like that? What are they recognizing or seeing in you that makes them want to do that?
Well, we're not sure why it happened. I mean, even now when I see him, I say, what was that?
Was your tail showing at the time?
No. We're not extraterrestrials, we want to know what's going on as much as anyone.
There must be some reason. Surely your friend or somebody must have explained why you have to do this thing. There must be something which is different.
He says we were being monitored.
Okay.
And he says that there are beings, all these interdimensional beings, and the government knows all kinds of things, and he makes reference to these things. I haven't got much more information than that from him on that specific day.
And when was this?
It wasn't that long ago. It was a few months ago.
I mean, was this anything to do with the Occupy movement?
It wasn't during that, but it was after that. He's connected with those people as well.
The Occupy movement.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are suggesting the Occupy movement is an intelligence operation. It's George Soros. It's like a New World Order front.
Well, that's what I thought it wasn't. That's what I thought, something like that. And I said that to him, but he says no, it's not. They're making a difference, with the problem with the bankers and stuff. He doesn't like bankers.
And it was all banker types doing all the video.
Yeah. He's probably, tripped a few wires, just with his day-to-day behaviours and where he goes and stuff.
What kind of wires? What's he tripped up?
Well, if he goes to that facility and he does those consciousness experiments and things, and if he's connected with Occupy, and he's also connected with Anonymous, the cyber gang, he's got all those connections.
So Anonymous has essentially got connections with the British military and the CIA.
Yeah.
So when they start doing cyber attacks on people, really it's a CIA or intel operation.
Well, that's what I think. I think it's I mean, he's military and he's connected with them. He's connected with the Occupy movement, and so yeah, it's all on purpose. All that official stuff, all the stuff that is at the surface, like Anonymous and Occupy, is kind of like engineered. It's like social engineering.
Okay,
it's
so
it's to get a reaction and prompt specific behaviours.
Okay, is there anything further you want to add on that particular level before we go over your beings, your alien beings, and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. I would say you know, the black goo is probably something which has been made by scientists, you know, and it's
Human scientists,
what I
extraterrestrial.
was told is that it was an experimental science. It didn't, you know, it wasn't going to make any money or anything like that. It was abandoned and thrown away, and it's in the process of being thrown away that it's ended up in the sewage system. And the things that it does are unintended, so it's not something that is like intended by the government or anything like that. It's like an accident.
The old unintended consequences problem.
Yeah, it's an unintended thing. That's what I've been informed.
In other words, they're not wanting to admit that they screwed up on it.
Yeah, exactly. No, there's no official. You know, they don't.
Well, does it officially exist?
No.
Did it lead to the deaths of those Marconi scientists?
Possibly.
And what's it led? Was it part of the Gulf oil spill?
Yeah. I mean, it's connected with that. I've been told that it's connected with.
Now, people have read the Nexus article. What do you mean you've been told?
I've been told that it's connected with oil because apparently they used oil to create it.
And where did they get that oil?
From wherever. It just needed to be crude oil. So it's like it's some sort of, you know, that's used as some sort of food, you know, for the organism, you know. So it's like it lives in that stuff. You know, it's its environment.
So what have you been told about the Gulf oil spill?
Nothing more than anyone else, other than oil can contain this organism. So if it spills somewhere, then that means that the organism is in the oil and it's gone into wherever it's spilled into.
So does this mean that by having this kind of oil in our cars, we are actually liberating this kind of stuff from the medium of the black oil to an atmospheric contaminant?
It needs to have a high concentration. You know, if it's just like a little bit of it somewhere in a basement, that's not enough. It needs to have quite a high concentration because it needs to be airborne, and it needs to be in quite like the enclosed spaces. And also the actual organism itself needs to have a high concentration as well, because it's a bit like a nanotechnology. It's a bit like nanobots. You know, there needs to be a lot of it. You know.
What do you know of nanobots?
Well, the nanobots are, you know, very tiny robots which can manipulate matter on a very small level. And
now, is this something that you know or told?
I just know that about nanobots. But I know that this sentient fluid is related to nanotechnology because it operates on some of the same principles of nanotechnology. So it can manipulate things at a very, you know, the reason why it's so potent is because at a very microscopic level it's able to manipulate things. So that's why it's dangerous if it goes up your nose and it goes in your brain, because it can modify things.
Now, why would it go up your nose?
Well, if it's latched onto something which is airborne, you've breathed it in, and then it's gone in your blood, and then your blood's gone around, and it's lodged itself somewhere in you, and then it can start, you know, working on your body over a period of time. Okay,
is there any final words you want to say on the black goo and anything that's related to it, or anything else you want to say with regard to that?
Well, I don't think it's a big risk to people. You know, I think
people shouldn't be running down the street screaming.
No, definitely not. You need to be exposed to it. There needs to be high concentrations of it. It needs to be in an environment where it can do its work.
I mean, what about sewage workers? For credit, you know,
no, they are. Yeah, of course. No, they are people that breathe in sewage, especially in London, are you know, they're at risk. You know, they should.
And what consequences does
this
mean?
They wear the protective things, so it's fine. Consequences, I don't think it's a common problem. I don't think people commonly get exposed to this substance. I think I'm a very rare case, and the things that it's done to me, I don't think it's a very common. In a laboratory with test subjects and things like that, Yes, like with government facilities and things testing these things.
So, I mean, they have been using human guinea pigs to test this on.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. And what's happened to those?
Just changes in their intellect and their behavior. So, I mean, it's a bit like a parasite. It attaches itself to your neurology, and it just modifies your behavior. It's behavioral modification,
But it's a behavioral modification that it has an agenda for, not us.
Yeah, it's an accident, and it's it's a technology that's been flushed down the toilet, and it's not going away. It's doing its own thing, But I don't think it's a big risk.
And it's modifying other life forms.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it can do what it wants down there. So,
So this is ultimately going to come back and bite us in the ass,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Is this what you've been told by the military people that you're connected with?
Yeah, one of them in particular, yeah.
What's the time scale on this?
What, of how long this has been going on?
Yeah.
Oh, decades. It's been going on for decades.
But what's the time scale on it biting us in the ass?
Well, when it's going to be a problem for
Yeah.
us? Probably over the next 10 or so years. But I don't think it's going to be a major thing. I just think there are going to be more instances of people who have been very much modified. So you're going to see a few people who can do weird maths. It's things like maths and strange abilities, like more people with strange abilities.
What kind of strange abilities?
Well, like being able to echolocate. So like you could be blind, but you can hear echoes, or you could calculate really extraordinary mathematical equations in your head. Things like that. Strange people that have these strange abilities, talents, and things.
Okay, let's get on to your diagrams.
Sure.
And let's get on to what they mean and what's going on and what the whole thing's all about. These are ETs or extra-dimensionals.
Well, this one is ET.
Have you heard of the TR3B alpha?
No.
Okay.
TR3B alpha.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, some people claim that it's a man-made alien abduction or MILAB craft, triangular vehicle for doing military abductions.
Well, it sounds similar to this one here, but this one is just one that I saw in the scrubs. It's a triangle-shaped UFO that hovers and doesn't have a very loud sound.
What is the sound?
It's just like a slight sound from the fact that it's hovering. So it's like an engine sound, but it's not very loud. It's just it's almost silent. The craft. It's not like a plane or it doesn't have like a helicopter loud rotor blade or a plane's engine or anything like that.
So in what way does it maneuver?
It was like this, and it would go down a little bit and then forwards, and then it would go back and then up a little bit and then backwards. Can you see my hand?
Yeah, I'll just wide out. So it maneuver. Yeah.
It's basically it's like this, and then it goes down a little bit and forwards, and then it goes back a little bit and then upwards. That as I was looking at it, was above me, and this was when I got hit by a being with this wormhole punch, and then two beings came with.
Did that hit you in the front of the chest?
No, it hit me first. It hit me in the back of the head,
yeah.
and then second, it hit me in the face.
And did that knock you out?
No, it wasn't very hard. The second one wasn't very hard. It made me move slightly, and but not. It wasn't too bad.
Did it sting or did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't do much. It just knocked me back in my face a little bit.
And then what happened after that?
Well, these two more came with medical outfits on, like scrubs, medical scrubs, very tall.
What do you mean medical scrubs?
They were wearing like overalls, medical overalls, and they were just looking at me, and they made me freeze so I couldn't move.
These are non-humans.
Non-humans. Yeah. I mean, they were.
This is near in Wormwood Scrubs Park in the middle of London, in the west of London.
Yeah.
And again, what's the date of this?
This was January 2010.
Right. And did they abduct you? What happened?
I thought I was going to go up into the spaceship, like the UFO. But what happened was I was just kept frozen on the grass, and they made me do these puzzles in my head, with like basically, I had to solve puzzles to do with infinity, and if I did a good job, I would hear like a celebration sound, like party noises and like things like the sound of people celebrating. If I did it wrong, I'd have like a suffering wave put on me, so I would feel suffering if I made a mistake. So
this is while you're standing there frozen in the park at Scrubs.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And how long did that go on for?
It went on for about 3 hours.
Jesus.
Yeah, and I was.
And nobody else noticed.
No one. There was no one there. It was just me. I thought the military would arrive or something like that. I thought someone would arrive and do something, but I was just.
So you underwent like 3 hours of tests by these beings.
Yeah.
In the park in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and I came home very late in the morning.
What other tests did they do?
Well, they did this strange thing to my wrist and my hand. It went out, and then I felt like a drilling, like a very small microscopic drill was doing some kind of surgery on my hand, and then it started to feel like it had electronics in it. So if I opened and closed my hand, it would feel like there was a technology in my hand, and I had rings appeared around my finger and my wrist.
A technology in your hand.
Yeah.
And this is after you've gone through the black goo thing.
Yeah, this is
this related to the black goo?
I think so. I mean, I think all of it's related. I think there's all different people involved in what happens. Some of them are, human and the military and they're from here, and other ones are interdimensional, and other ones are extraterrestrial. And over the course of my life, I've just been unfortunate in that I've had to have these experiences, and they all seem to connect together. So in my mind, in 1 year I have certain things happen, another year I have other things happen. I also seem to meet people, sort of just in the street. Like a woman stopped me in the street and started talking to me, and then it turned out she had a friend who lived in the Scrubs who has alien contacts, and she's got a balcony or something, So like
Wormwood Scrubs is still a prison, yeah.
Yeah, there's a prison there as well. Yeah.
So are they using the prisoners with the aliens?
Well, that's what I've been told. I mean, there's a woman that lives in the.
Is there a particular category? Go ahead.
There's a woman that lives in the Scrubs who's had alien contacts for ages. She's 60 years old, and that I met a woman who knows her just in the street. She came up to me in the street and started talking to me, and I thought she might be like a government agent or something, because you never know. And I still don't know actually, but she's asked me many questions about this stuff, and this is just a random.
What do you mean stuff?
About my experiences with ETs and extra-dimensional. She knows about the sewage thing as well. She uncovered that. But it's someone who stopped me in the street, started talking to me.
In broad daylight.
In broad daylight, yeah, and took my number.
Outside the Scrubs.
No, this was in Shepherd's Bush.
Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah, she took my number. She
near the
texted
BBC.
Me. Yeah, and she met up with me, and over time she's been asking me about this stuff. But it's just one of those strange coincidences.
So did she sort of sort you out?
Yeah. I mean, for a while I was paranoid. I thought that she might be, MI5 or something.
The important thing to understand, Alistair, about this whole thing is that you are paranoid and they are out to get you.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
It's both.
That's a joke. That's part of the whole joke thing.
I know it.
I've been told I'm paranoid because, hey, they are out to get me. Anyway.
No, I know what you're saying. I mean, it's paranoia comes with the territory. You know, sometimes you're paranoid and without reason, and other times you're paranoid and with reason. But you're both paranoid both times.
Well, we've managed to come to the end of the third hour, and we've still only got up to your first diagram.
Shall I click to the next one?
Yeah, we've got only 5 minutes left. So is your next one going to last more than 5 minutes?
We could touch upon it just quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
This is one of the things which I saw in my visions. It's basically an egg in the middle, and then there's tubes around it which are feeding different species. They've all been modified genetically, but they're different species, and one of them is going to be the one to fertilize the egg, and it's going to be the strongest, best, most intelligent, most adaptive.
Now, what do you mean by species? What's in these tubes? What?
They're all different aliens. They're different species of different aliens.
Such as, can you list them? I mean, you've written on the diagram, but it's not tremendously clear from what I can see.
Okay.
So could you? I think actually, because we're running out of tape on this, we'll recommence with this still in the next minute or two. Okay. We'll take a break there.
Sure.